There's a home football game later. Go Big Red. And I'm going to talk about a Porco Rosso that is a crimson pig. Yeah, you're a good girl. You're my good girl. Aren't you a good girl? Yes, you is. My good girl. I gotta do a video now. I gotta talk about a flying pig. Pig who flies an airplane. How's that sound? She's like, okay. I will climb up here. Whoa. The chair moved. The chair moved. The chair is not supposed to move. I know. I have to record. I love you. Okay. Time to talk about Porco Rosso, which came out in 1992. So this movie is as old as I am. Yeah. Hey, what can I say? It was written and directed by Hayao Miyazaki, and of course produced through Studio Ghibli and such. It is based off of The Age of the Flying Boat, which is a 3-part watercolor manga by manga for Miyazaki's Daydream Data Notes. So it's just something he dreamed up, basically. So that's kind of interesting. The premise of the movie is, of course, there is Porco Rosso, Marco Russellini, who is this man who, via his actions, has been cursed and turned into a pig, where he has the visage of a pig on his face. And he is a seaplane pilot in the Adriatic. And, his epitaph is the Crimson Pig because he's a pig and he flies around in a red airplane. In a red seaplane. The Adriatic, I believe, is a portion of the sea that is near Italy, because there's a lot of stuff that is involving Italy during this movie, so it's near Italy, but it's not part of Italy itself at the time. It's, kind of like, international waters type of a thing. Into the actual story. We start the story with, we are introduced to Marco Russellini, or Porco, as he's referred to by most characters, and he just tends to spend his day relaxing in his hideout, unless he is called in to go be a bounty hunter, which is his main job is being a bounty hunter. And we are introduced to the fact that there is a lot of seaplane pirates that are in this, that are in the Adriatic, and that they tend to attack cruise ships and take, hostages and take the money and the loot and everything like that that's on the ships, rob the people that are on the ships and everything like that. And we start off the movie where we're introduced to the Mama Ayudo gang. One of the other things that's funny about this movie is that all of the different gangs, they all have different names, and they all have different styles of planes, which is fun. But they all kind of look similar within their own gang. All of the ones that are in the Mama Ayudo gang, a lot of them have big bushy beards around their face, and they have big noses and stuff like that. Other ones all have a kind of a big nose with just a white beard across, mustache. Other one, on a different gang and stuff like that, where they all kind of look similar within the same gang, which is kind of funny. It's just we didn't want to take a whole amount of time to have to draw so many different character designs for them, so we just did that. So, okay, I guess that's fair. They could all be related, I guess. So the Mama Ayudo gang shows up, and they end up taking a bunch of these schoolgirls hostage. And, the schoolgirls are just causing so many problems on their plane. They're just, running around. The kids are not scared at all as to what is going on, which is just kind of funny. So that's funny there. And the pirates aren't going to hurt the kids, but they're like, they're hostages, but we can't take only some and leave the rest because we can't separate them from their friends, which is just funny. I mean, like, the Mama Ayudo gang, most of the pirate gangs that we see in this, yes, it is a bit, kind of toned down a bit for the fact of so kids can watch this movie, but like, they don't really try to hurt the civilians necessarily. I mean, like, they don't try to hurt the little kids, which is good. There's other points where they don't try to hurt, other innocent bystanders and stuff like that to a degree. Yes, there is a moment in the end of the movie where they throw, like, a grenade into a crowd of people, but it's also, these people are clearly not necessarily the highest crust of society to begin with. So, in regards to morality. So, there's, funny stuff that goes along there, which is just kind of hilarious. And Porco gets this call, and, within his, island area where he lives, and they're just like, you need to come and, take care of the Mama Ayudo gang, get us our money back, and save the girls. And he's like, okay, fine. And he gets his plane going, and he heads off. And he flies by the ship, and they have, like, all of the the crew on the ship pointing as an arrow to tell Porco where to go. And Porco just kind of, like, flies off the other direction because he knows the island so well that he's like, well, the Ayudo gang is just going to fly until they're out of sight, and then they're going to land and do some stuff, and then they'll keep going. So I'll just go around the other way, and I'll catch them that way. So Porco, like, he's been flying for so long that he knows what he's doing in that regard. And, he catches up to the ship, to the Mama Ayudo gang's plane, and he manages to, shoots little bits of the plane, not where any of the kids are, not where any of the actual crew are, but just the plane. And, gets the plane to, crash land to a degree, in the water and everything, and he's, like, using the, it's like a flash signaler, to use, like, Morse code to, communicate with with the Ayudo gang, with the Mama Ayudo gang. And it's just like, if you hand over the kids, I'll let you keep some of the loot to cover your expenses and blah, 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 blah. And it's just like, message from the pig and stuff like that. So we have those fun bits there. And again, the little girls are not terrified at all as to what's going on. It's hilarious and so funny. It kind of paints the pirates as, like, kind of bumbling idiots to a degree, which, is funny. And, so Porco's able to save the girls and everything like that, and then he has to kind of, like, put up with them for a little bit. And then we are introduced to the Hotel Adriano, which is this beautiful hotel that is, kind of located within the Adriatic, that is kind of this little oasis that the pilots can go to, and that, civilians go there, and Porco loves to go there because, like, the woman who owns the hotel, Madame Gina, is his, one of his, oldest friends and stuff like that. And we're introduced to Gina, and she is this, very sophisticated lady who, she, as it's stated in the bonus features for the English dub of this, the movie takes place in Italy. It was originally done in Japanese. It's being translated into English, and she's singing in French. So, we have it that Gina is singing to, the big crowd within her hotel and everything like that, and we just see, like, all eyes are on her and everything. And we're introduced to a bunch of the other seaplane pirate gang that are there, and they're all having this big discussion about whether or not they should hire this American, trick pilot or whatever to come and help them, to work for them or work alongside them and try to help them beat Porco, because they're so tired of having to lose to Porco again and again and again. And his name is Curtis, and it is just, he's supposed to be this, big star airplane racer from Texas and stuff like that. Bear in mind, this the time frame setting for this movie is supposed to be taking place pre-World War II, because they keep mentioning the Great War, which was, of course, World War I. and Porco flew in World War One on, the side of the Italians or whatever in that regard. Bear in mind, I also do not remember the exact setup for who was on what side during World War II or during World War One. World War II was a bit more clear cut, but World War One was a little bit of like the person got shot, treaties went into action, reasons happened, stuff like that. Doesn't make it any less of a horrible war. It's just I don't remember the exact setup for that. As well as I remember for the setup for World War II. But so this is taking place, pre-World War II, and such. So we have a lot of that, references coming into the movie there and stuff like that. And so, the seaplane pirates are like, well, okay, so should we hire this guy to help us and everything like that? And he is like this big bona fide celebrity and everything like that. And he is a very good pilot. For his skill, he is a very good pilot when it comes to flying and racing and everything like that. Not to denounce Curtis. But Curtis is also just he's instantly infatuated with Gina, which, I mean, come on, she's amazing, so I can't blame her. Can't blame him. And Porco shows up at the restaurant / hotel, and of course, everybody there knows who he is. He's this, celebrity within the Adriatic and within the seaplane community and stuff like that in the area. And him and Curtis kind of interact and everything. And, Porco's not that impressed with Curtis and everything. And then, Curtis ends up trying to propose to Gina, which she just, turns him down flat. Which is funny. And then we get this, conversation between Gina and Porco. And Gina states that, she is like, well, I've been married to 3 seaplane pilots, and they've all died. Her first husband died in the Great War, and then the other one died, a different one died again. Her second husband died, and then her third one, they just found him somewhere in Asia. And she's like, I think I've run out of tears to cry and stuff like that. And like, these are also pilots who are like friends of Porco as well. So, it's not like, it's not like Porco is like, doesn't know who any of these men are. And, and she's like, she thanks Porco for keeping an eye on her in the hotel all of this time. Admittedly, pretty much all the seaplane pirates, just adore Gina anyway, because she's like, remember, the rules. You eat in my bar, not fight. Or you eat in my hotel, not fight. And they're just like, oh yes, Miss Gina, we would never fight within 50 miles of your place. Yeah, we're even getting along with the pig. So it's just like, we get those interactions where all of them are just so like infatuated with Gina and everything like that. And they all have a lot of respect for her because she has like built up this hotel and everything like that and gives them a place to, where they can all come and, it's like neutral territory. And stuff like that when it comes to gangs and stuff like that. It's like, this is neutral territory. We don't cause problems here. We don't cause problems here. And stuff out of respect for Gina and everything like that. And I love that. Also, it's just like when you see her interact with her employees, you just see how much they seem to adore her as well in like little bits, which is very nice because it shows that she takes very good care of her employees and stuff like that. So I love how they do that. When it comes to Gina's character, how it's just like these subtle things to show how much she, has earned the respect of so many people around her, and it's not out of fear, it's out of she's done a good job as being a business owner and everything like that. And she is not a damsel in distress that needs Porco to come and save her. She just wants a friend. She is in love with Porco. That is very evident throughout the entire movie and everything like that, and Porco is in love with her, but he can't imagine why she would be in love with him, so that's part of the story plot. And what ends up happening is, so Gina and Porco are talking, and she's like, I can't believe, she's like looking at this picture that is like the last picture they have of Porco from before he was a pig, and it's like her and Porco and some of their other friends from when they were like teenagers. And like the plane that he would fly at the time, which is we see later on in a flashback, is called Adriano, which is why the hotel is Hotel Adriano, because it's named after the plane. And so he's like, yeah, well, I'm a pig now. There don't need to be any pictures of me as a human lying around or whatever. And Gina's just like shaking her head at him and everything like that. And they talk a little bit about Curtis and how he's not that impressive or whatever. And then, or how, he can be impressive, but he's very immature, which is true. And then we cut to, I don't know, a couple of days later or whatever. And we get this moment where Porco where Curtis, along with the other the other seaplane pirates, again, raid a ship with Curtis helping them. And then there ends up being this call that goes out to Porco over the radio because of them. And I love how they do this in the movie, because it's like they have Porco listening to the radio as he's trying to do some maintenance on his plane. And so he's listening to the radio, and it's just like, the Mama Aido gang and a bunch of other seaplane pirates, along with, Curtis, robbed a ship today. It's just like, why doesn't that just put Curtis already as like an outlaw and as like someone that has a warrant out for his arrest or whatever, type of a thing. But still, and there it's and they had this message for Porco Rosso, and we cut to where we see like all of the pirates and Curtis and everything like that, and it's just like, you're next, Porco, and then they're just like all yelling over each other and everything like that, and it's just like, get off me, and just like shouting at each other. And then it cuts back to the radio gun going, you're next, Porco, ow, or ow, get off me, which is just so funny for how they do that. I love that transition in the movie. It's so funny. And Porco's like, well, I'm not sticking around to deal with this. So he gets in his plane and he's like, I'm going to go to Milan and go to where his mechanic is and everything like that. So he's like, okay, well, I'm going to head there. We also have these moments where we have seen Porco like go into Italy and come back out of Italy to like one of the port towns that's like right near where the Adriatic would be. And he's always followed by like the secret police and everything like that. And we see that the crowd is like getting riled up and stuff like that from different demonstrators and the military parade that's going on and everything like that. As I said, I don't know the exact time frame. I do believe it's supposed to be taking place during the 1930s. But I don't know if that's supposed to imply that this is like the people that were coming into power with Mussolini or not. I'm not sure off the top of my head. Because Mussolini was, of course, the leader of Italy in World War II. And part of that whole, problem that happened there. But I don't know exactly how that sets up in this. But, so Porco is, trying to fly his way to Milan, and he ends up interacting with Curtis, and they get into this mid-air dogfight and everything like that, where, Porco's engine kind of stalls, and him and Curtis are kind of shouting back and forth at each other, which is kind of funny. Hi, what you doing? Hi, pretty girl. Hi, pretty girl. My good girl. Yeah, my good girl. Yeah, you're my good girl. I love you. Her. I'm not a dog fight. No. You're not a dog fight. You're a good girl. But, Curtis and Porco get into the mid-air dogfight, and Porco's plane ends up taking some hits, and it ends up crashing, and he ends up kind of like hiding the plane. And Curtis ends up finding like one of the paneling of the plane with the red color, and he picks it up, and he's just like, this will be great proof. Maybe I'll send it back home to Mom as a present, type of a thing, and everything like that. So he's just like, I'll send it back home to Mom. Also, Curtis is supposed to be from Texas, which is just funny. I think I mentioned that earlier. And he is a very good pilot and a very good racer and everything like that. So that's not like, he's not like boasting for nothing. He has the skills to back up what he keeps, boasting about. So Curtis, uses that to show that he, took out Porco and everything. And Porco manages to, the plane will not fly anymore. So he manages to get onto a cargo ship and start making his way to Milan and onto a train and everything like that to get to Milan and get to where he's going. During this time frame, Gina, because of course rumors would have of course gone all over the place about the fact that Curtis shot down Porco and everything, and Gina's rushing out of the hotel to go and try to find Porco. And she gets a call from Porco, and she runs back into the hotel, and she's just like, Marco, where the heck are you? How stupid are you? Type of thing. I will find you, and, what happened and everything. And he's just like, oh, I'm fine. I got shot down by Curtis, but I'm fine. The plane's kind of messed up at this point in time, so I need to go to my mechanic. And she's, like, yelling at him over the phone, which is just so funny, because he's being an idiot, because it's just like, she's like, I don't care how good your mechanic is in Milan. You can't go there. The Italians have a warrant out for your arrest. And everything like that. So she's, Gina is very much in the right here, and Porco is kind of being an idiot. And, we get this, dynamic in their relationship there where she wants him to make the smart choices, and she just wants him to come back to her and just, be with her, but he is an idiot, and, he's a pig, as he calls himself, because that's why he's cursed to be a pig. He makes the comment later on, it's just like all middle-aged men are pigs and everything like that, which I'm like, no, they're not. And so he, Gina gets angry at him and he ends up hanging up, or she hangs up on him, one of the two, and he, we see him making his way to Milan and everything like that, where he ends up at his mechanic's place, which is run by this little old guy named Piccolo, or Mr. Piccolo, and he wants Piccolo to rebuild the plane. Piccolo ends up saying that his granddaughter, Fio, is going to be the one to design the remodel of the plane and how to rebuild it and everything. And this is where we kind of see some of Porco's, sexism coming into play. A little bit of also, like, she's a kid and stuff like that, because Fio is 17 years old, if I remember correctly from how old they say she is in the movie. Hi, what you doing? And, so Porco, we have Porco, like, having to hand over all his money to Piccolo in this scene, so he can pay to have the plane fixed and everything. And Piccolo's just like, yeah, money's barely worth what it's printed on these days and everything, and, you'll stay here and everything like that, so you don't need money for a hotel or food. You'll stay here and meals will be included and everything like that. And all of that stuff. So we're dealing with that, and he's like, well, who's going to design my plane if all of your sons are gone? And he's like, Fio will do it. And Porco is getting ready to pack up his money, take his money, and go find someone else who can, fix his plane. And Fio comes in, and she's like, so what part of this don't you agree with? The fact that I'm a woman or the fact that I'm so young? And he's like, well, it's kind of both. And she's like, okay, well, the young part is fair for, for her, being only like 17 years old or whatever. And she's like, but, she kind of argues back and forth with Porco a little bit and ends up getting into where he's like, fine. And Fio makes a deal with him where it's just like, if I don't do a good job on designing the plane, you don't have to pay. How's that sound? And Piccolo is just like, has complete faith in his granddaughter, and he's just like sitting there like going over the books to like for the money and everything like that, and he's like, she's my granddaughter, she'll do fine. Interaction, which I just love. He's just like, I put my faith in my granddaughter, she's good, we'll be fine. So I love that, which is just funny. And Brenda's trying to look out the window. Are you trying to look out the window? Do you see people walking by on the way to the game? Her. Yep. They are walk by. Are they looking for the game? Are you looking at people? Are you people watching? She's like, would be better with window open. I could watch them better. Yeah, well, I need to record. She's like, pet me. Why do you do that? Pet me. She's a good girl. Yes, you is. You're a good girl. See her in the camera. Mommy. Yeah, I know. I love you. I love you. You're a good girl. Yeah. I love you very much. Yes, I do. But I have to keep talking about a flying pig. Her. Flying pig. Does that mean winged bacon? maybe. And what ends up happening is, Porco's like, fine. And he's like, fine. If you don't design a good plane or whatever, I don't have to pay for this. Fine. And, so he lets Theo have the ability to design the plane. And she puts a lot of work into it. She, spends the rest of the night just, finding the original blueprints and making modifications and everything like that. And going through all of that. And Porco goes and he sees the next morning and he sees the blueprints and he's talking to her and she's like, showing that she very much does know what she's doing in this regard. And, Porco is like, fine, you guys can design the plane. And then we have this moment where it's just like, all of like Piccolo's family are showing up, but it's only the women that are showing up, other granddaughters, other nieces, other cousins, other whatever, all showing up and everything like that at the Piccolo company. And, so we have that all happening. And Porco is just like, well, okay. And he's like, being polite and, meeting all of them and everything. And we have like these 3 older women show up that are supposed to be like the big grandmas in the family and everything like that. And Porco's, very familiar with them because he's known Piccolo for a long time. So he's known that, yep, she found the toy. Did you find the toy? Did you find your toy? Yeah, I know, you found it. She found her toy. She's already destroyed the squeaker in within a day of us when we got it. And we'll see how well the noise lasts in the background. And what ends up happening is it's revealed to Piccolo that, the women are going to be the one building his plane, and this kind of throws him off, and he's like, that's not exactly what he was expecting. And he's like kind of arguing with Piccolo while all of the women are getting like everything set up to do like this big feast of, pasta and everything like that because Italy. And, pasta is a very easy thing to make en masse for like a large number of people. So we're showing all of that and everything like that. And Piccolo is, kind of chastising Porco a little bit. And Porco is just like, well, what do you mean you're going to have all these women build my plane? What about your sons? Bring them back here. This is work. And Piccolo's like, stop being such a pig. Women are great and, all of that other stuff. And, it'll be fine. They know what they're doing. And they do know what they're doing. And we have this moment where, like, all of them are sitting down to eat, and Porco gets ready to start eating, and then, we have Piccolo saying a prayer, and he's just like, thank you for bringing our family work when we were on the brink of bankruptcy, and please forgive us for building a plane for fighting with the hands of women, and everything. So we have that moment, and, like, Porco just kind of, like, pauses before he starts eating, before they all start eating while Piccolo is giving the prayer. Showing kind of where some of Piccolo's priorities lie, but also where, like, Porco's priorities lie and everything. And then, and they all eat, and then we cut to where we have it that all of the women are getting ready to start working on building the plane, and we have this montage sequence where we have, all of the women, in their very nice dresses and their nice earrings and everything like that, all of them working on building the plane, which I love, with, like, Theo being the one to direct all of them, Piccolo helping at various points in time, but mostly, Theo being the one in charge of it. And we have this other scene where, like, Porco, Theo, and Piccolo are talking, and at one point in time after Theo runs off because, she was asking a question about adding a certain thing to the plane, and Porco's like, fine, whatever. And then Piccolo is, like, asking Porco, and he's like, do you like Theo? And Porco's like, huh? And Piccolo's just like, don't touch her, which is just so funny. He's like, yeah. He's like, don't worry, just looking at her makes me exhausted. So we have that funny interaction there where it's just like Piccolo's like, yeah, you're one of my friends and you're our client right now, but don't touch my granddaughter. That moment, which is funny. And then we have it that Porco is at this movie theater, and he's watching this little, 1930s hand-drawn animation thing that's supposed to be a reference to, like, Mickey Mouse or whatever at that point in time. that would have been in movie theaters and stuff like that. And it's, you know, it's a flying pig in the movie trying to capture the girl from the hero cartoon character and everything like that that Porco's watching. And one of Porco's friends, who is in the Italian military, has found Porco, and he's explaining to Porco, you know, the Italian military knows you're here, and they're going to be coming after you and your little plane, and everything like that. And, like, you know, so they're just kind of talking, and he's like, and Ferrari is the name of the pilot that's Porco's friend that he's talking to, and Ferrari is like, you know, why don't you come back to the, you know, Italian military? I can, you know, I have some sway now. I can, you know, get you, you know, a good position or whatever, thing like that. And Porco is just like, you know, wars are for humans. I'm a pig. You know, patriotism is not something that I care about and everything like that. That, you know, I'm a pig. That's what I am. And everything. So we have that moment there, and then Porco, on his way back, he ends up running into Fio, and, you know, he's trying to, you know, he explains to her that, you know, the Italian secret police are after me because they like my plane, but they don't like me flying it. And, you know, so they want my plane, and they want to arrest me and everything like that. So he's like, you know, I need to get out of Milan tonight and everything. And we have it that they're getting ready, so that way, you know, we cut to that night at the Piccolo warehouse. There's also this other scene in the montage sequence where Piccolo is showing Porco the engine that he has, and the engine has like Ghibli written on the engine, which is funny. Which Ghibli is actually an Italian word that the then Studio Ghibli is named after. So there's like that whole fun little, you know, looped around there thing, which is fun. Hi, yeah, I know. Are you an upside down baby? I love you. And what ends up happening is, you know, we have the scene where, like, Porco and Piccolo are, like, in Piccolo's shed, and Piccolo is, like, you know, revving up this big airplane engine, and it's just causing so much noise and everything like that, and, like, causing a lot of damage to the shed, which is just kind of funny. And they're just, like, yelling over the thing, and Porco's like, I don't think this is very good for your shed, Piccolo, and Piccolo's like, wait till I turn it up more, and, you know, so we just have, like, that whole funny interaction there, which is just great. Which is just great. I love the interactions between Piccolo and Porco. They're so great. Piccolo is so funny. And so we have that, and then, you know, they have it, you know, we cut to the night that Porco has to leave Milan, and, you know, the secret police are, like, outside of the building and everything like that, and you know, the Piccolo's family and everything like that, all of the women are getting the plane all set and ready to go and everything, and Fio actually reveals that she's going with Porco. And Piccolo and Porco's like, no you're not. I am going to go be in a dogfight with someone. You cannot be there. It will be dangerous. And Fio is just like, not scared about this at all. She's like, no, it'll be fine. And she's like, she explains it as just like, I have to go with you to be a hostage, so that way my family can claim that you were using me as a hostage in order to have us build your plane. So that way they can kind of get off scot-free with this. So I like how they're, like, setting that up, that where it's like, they thought this out. And Porco is just basically, like, listing off all the reasons this is a horrible idea for her to come with him. He's like, I am a known womanizer. I live on an island alone in a small tent with one bed. This is not a good idea for you to come with me. And she's just like, that's great. I love camping. And it's like, she probably knows exactly what he is referring to, but Porco has not actually, like, hurt anyone that we've seen. It's even stated later on that Porco won't even shoot a pilot in a plane, even if it would win him the match, because he doesn't want to do that. And things like that. So it's like, you know, there is honor there for Porco. But, you know, he's, like, trying to convince her to not come with him. And, you know, Piccolo is, like, perfectly fine with this. And Porco's like, this whole family is insane. I don't know what I'm doing. Fine, you can come with me. And so, you know, Fio's getting it ready so she can, like, ride in the plane with Porco and everything like that. And all of that. And, you know, so they get everything all ready and they get headed out of the back of the garage, goes out, or the back of the workshop opens up and goes out into one of the canals in Milan. So they, release the plane out of that, and Piccolo and Porco and Theo in the plane start, going down the, basically trying to use the canal as a runway so that way they can try to build up speed, so that way they can then take off. So we get like this plane chase through the canals of Milan, which is kind of fun, and they eventually do manage to take off, and they get away from the secret police, and then they end up interacting with Ferrari again, who like kind of shows them a safe way to get out of Milan and out of Italy and everything like that. And so we get like that interaction there, and then we cut back to the Hotel Adriano, where we have it that Curtis has actually made his way into this like secret garden area, private garden area that Gina has within the Hotel Adriano. And the garden itself looks gorgeous. I love the garden. It's like, I would love to have this garden. And he makes his way into there and makes his way to like the little gazebo area where she is having like afternoon tea or whatever. And she's like, "What are you doing in my garden, Mr. Curtis? How did you even get here?" And he it's like, dude, you broke into her private property. It's like, you do not have the right to be here. And he's just like there trying to like charm her and everything like that with like, "I have this movie deal and I have this contract for you, from, America with this offer to, come and be in movies and everything like that." And she's like, "Okay." Like, she is like not impressed with this at all. And yes, I know, I love you too. Hi. And she's like just like not impressed with this at all in the slightest and everything like that. And he's like, "But don't you want to come to America? Don't you want to be my wife? Don't you want to do this?" And she's like, "No, I don't." And like we get this comparison about like, what love is in regards to like Curtis, where she's like, you fall in love with like every girl you meet. And Curtis, kind of can't deny that because he's proposed to her already after just meeting her. And he's going to do the same thing to Theo in a little bit. And so there's that, and then there's, they have this whole conversation, and she's like, love is a little bit a little more complicated here than it is in America or in your movies and everything like that. And she's like, what is it that you want? And he's like, "I want to be president of the United States." And she just like laughs so hard at that, which I love. And she's like, "I have this long-standing bet here with myself that if I, one day, the man that I love will come to this garden and he'll fall in love with me. And, and we'll fall in love and, live happily ever after." And he's like trying to figure out what she means by that. And then we hear Porco's plane show up. And, he's doing like loops and tricks and stuff like that over the hotel. So, so Gina can see that he's back and that the plane's fine and that he's fine and everything like that. And, we get this little flashback with Gina where she's flashing back to like, I think it's supposed to be like 1912 or something like that, when like her and Porco were like teenagers. And it's like one of the first times Porco's flying a plane, like after he's learning how to fly a plane and everything, and it's called the Adriano. And why are you trying to rip off part of the hat? Why? She's like, "I don't care, I chew it. It will come off." And what happens is, we get the little flashback sequence, and it's, young Gina and young Porco and everything on the plane, and like while they're flying, it's like wonderful. And then like, Gina's skirt flies up and she has to cover it back up, and Porco just blushes really, really red, which is just funny and everything like that. So we get that kind of, fun bit there. Silly girl. And so, and we cut back to Gina, and she's like, and like Curtis is watching all this happen, and he's like, "That Porco, I thought I shot him down." And she's like, "I guess I lose my bet again." And he realizes that she means Porco, that she's in love with Porco. And he kind of like, "Why would you be in love with him? I can give you so much more," and blah, 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 blah. And she's just like, "Go back to America, little boy." And she like walks off. And then we cut to where Porco and Theo end up back at Porco's island. And, while they're there, Theo has revealed that, that she's grown up on stories about seaplane pilots and everything like that. From her grandfather and from her father and from, other relatives and stuff like that have told her all these stories about the seaplane pilots and everything like that and how courageous they are and all of that stuff. And what are you doing? I flop around on bed. Yep, I can tell. And how she, knows all of these stories and everything like that. And she's heard of Gina of the Hotel Adriano. And she's like, isn't that the one that all the seaplane pilots are madly in love with and everything like that? And all of that stuff. And we also have this moment where, like, Porco is finding out from, one of the other locals that, like, because of what's going on, the regime change in the government in Italy and everything like that it's much harder to, be a bounty hunter and everything like that. And all this other stuff. So, he's getting caught up on the gossip since he's been gone for however many weeks, whatever. And getting all of that caught up and everything. And then they end up back on Porco's Island, and while they're there, once they're there and landed and everything and off the plane, all of the other seaplane pirates just, like, come bursting out of Porco's tent and, like, kind of trample over each other and end up trying to attack Porco. It's not his fault. It's not his fault you guys can't be seaplane pirates anymore. And they're trying to get Porco, and then they're just, like, very befuddled by why Theo is there. It's just like, boss, there's a girl here. And they're like, and she's kind of cute, and they're just, like, they have this whole moment where, like, it's revealed that she's the one that's the mechanic and the designer and the engineer and everything that, like, redesigned Porco's plane and everything like that. So, they're all just kind of befuddled by that and everything, and they're just like, but she's so young, and, all this stuff, and, like, Porco's, giving her compliments because he's flown the plane and he can see how well she's done with the plane and everything like that, with designing it and building it and everything like that. And Theo has earned Porco's admiration at this point in time. And what ends up happening is, Porco, the rest of the seaplane pirates are like, okay, but we're going to destroy Porco's plane. And then Theo is just like, nope, you are not destroying my plane. And she, like, chews them all out and chastises them for all of this. And she's, like, not doing it in, like, a full-on mean way, but she's like, my grandfather told me stories about seaplane pilots and how, like, whenever they fly, the ocean purifies their soul, and just, like, so many other stuff like that. And they're like, you can't destroy this plane. It's a work of art, and, blah, 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 blah. And, like, within that short amount of time, all of them are just like, okay, fine, we won't destroy the plane out of respect for you, Theo, but we're still going to slice up the pig. And then she's just like, you can't do that. So we have this, like, moment there where it's just like, why are you doing this? It's just like, you can't do this, type of a thing. And, like, she basically manages to, like, make them all kowtow to her, which is so funny. And they're just like, you shouldn't be fighting against Porco like this. You should do it honorably in a one-on-one match and everything. And all of that. And eventually it ends up being, like, Curtis shows up, and he, like, does this whole entrance where he jumps down from, like, a high place and lands for whatever reason after doing, like, a couple of, spins in the air or whatever. It's like, dude, why? And he shows up, and he, like, is, like, there to, challenge Porco again. And he sees Theo, and he just kind of, like, instantly falls in love with her and asks her to marry him. And Theo's like, no. And Theo ends up turning it on its head, where she's like, okay, if you win, I'll marry you. If we win, you have to pay all of Porco's bills. And she hands Curtis, like, this whole list of bills and everything like that that they have. And Curtis is, like, looking through them, and he's like, some of these are kind of expensive. And she's like, no, they're not. And they're having this moment, like, Porco is trying to talk Theo out of this. Like, this is not a good idea. You cannot do this. This is a horrible idea. And the deal ends up being struck where, the next morning they will have this, dog fight, plane fight between Curtis and Porco. And if Curtis wins, Theo will marry him. And if Porco wins, then Curtis will pay off Porco's bills. So, and it's not like, Piccolo's family does need the money, a lot of money. Does need the money because they're like on the verge of bankruptcy, and Piccolo even says, it's like, I want you back in business as soon as possible so we can get paid. So we have that there. That was said earlier in the movie before they left Milan. And what ends up happening is, so they make the deal with Curtis, and Curtis and the rest of the scene playing pirates are all leaving and everything like that. And they're all just like, bye, Theo! We'll see you tomorrow! Like, all this other funny stuff, like, just going through all of that and everything. Like, as they're leaving, Porco just ends up yelling at them, like, will you leave already? And they're like, bye! And then they just all leave. Sorry, I didn't mean to scare you. She's like, you surprised me, not scared me. And she's like, you did that, now you pet me. Yeah, I know. I love you. And what ends up happening is, of course, Theo and, Theo is like thanking Porco for standing up for her, and Porco thanks her for, kind of saving his butt from getting turned into bacon. There's a lot of bacon and pig jokes in this movie, which is, applicable because, pigs are what we make bacon out of, and ham and everything. So we have that, but then we have this moment where Theo just kind of starts shivering, and it's like, oh, like it's like that moment where like the adrenaline has kind of gone off, and you kind of have like the shakes after you've done like a very scary thing and managed to stand up to the scary thing, and then like you're like, okay, I didn't think I was going to be able to do that. And she's like kind of shivering, and Porco's like trying to make sure she's okay. And, they kind of like, shake hands of, yeah, we're in this together. And then she like strips off of the flight suit that she's in and like runs into the water. And Porco is just kind of like trying to look away with, because she, basically stripped in front of him. She's still like in her underwear and a tank top and everything like that. But, he's like, okay, no, not watching that. And she runs into the water, and then she makes she was like, darn it, I messed up there. And he's like, what happened? And she's like, I should have padded those bills. Curtis would have paid us a lot more. And Porco just starts laughing at that, so that's just kind of funny. So we have that there. And what ends up happening is, that night we see Porco, like, getting everything all ready. He's going through all of these cartridges that he has of bullets and trying to pick out, like, the best ones that he wants to use for this dogfight. And, like, he's outside on his table doing this, by lamplight, and Theo's, like, laying on the ground in a, about to say suitcase, but that's wrong, sleeping bag. Hi. In a sleeping bag and everything, and they're just kind of talking, and she ends up, finding out that Porco kind of tells her a story. She asks him, they're having this conversation, and Porco is just very much focused in on getting all of the bullets and everything ready. She is like watching him, and for a moment he looks human again. And she's, like, kind of befuddled by that. And she asks him how he got turned into a pig. And he says, like, all middle-aged men are pigs. I got cursed or whatever, and now I look like a pig. And all that stuff. And she's like, well, maybe it'll be broken if you get, kissed. Like, like how the princess kisses the frog and he turns back into the prince. And he's like, no, you should save your first kiss or whatever for someone who's special and who it matters. And everything. And Theo, ends up being like, tell me a story. And he tells her this story of, during the end of the Great War, that he had been in, that him and his best friend who had just been married to Gina, how, they were in this big dog fight against the enemy near the end of the Great War. And how, he woke up at one point after the fight, and how he was just, flying above the clouds, and how above him he just saw this, like, line of white, and he realizes that that line of white are all of these other planes, and out of the clouds around him come all of these other planes with the pilot still in them, one of them being his friend, the other one being different enemy pilots and other pirates from pilots from their unit and everything like that as they fly up into the sky and up into this like line of, airplanes and everything. And it's a great shot in the movie, and I love how they do it, and it's beautifully a way of showing off all these different airplane designs and everything like that. Because bear in mind, at that point in time, airplanes had only been around for a couple of decades, and they're already being used and manufactured for war and everything like that. And we also heard the story that, like, from Theo, that, like, I heard, because her father had been in Porco's unit. She's like, I remember a story from my father about how Porco once, how Marco had once, landed a plane in the middle of a storm in order to save the life of an enemy pilot and everything like that. So it's, it's those moments where it's like it's showing that Porco is a very decent human being. He is just kind of a womanizer and stuff like that as well, because, human beings are very complex people. Yes, we all are very complex people, aren't we, baby girl? Her, yep. And so Porco was telling her the story as, all these other plane and the pilots are, like, flying up into this, stream of airplanes. And she's like, God was telling you it wasn't your time yet. And he's like, maybe. Or maybe this is hell and life as a pig is just, hell. And everything. So, we get that moment there where it's supposed to be this representation that, like, all these other pilots that died, that's where they're going off to. What you looking at? Are you looking at Hedwig? Looking at Hedwig? Or the TARDIS? She's like, I don't know. I was just looking at stuff. And Theo ends up actually jumping up and, like, giving Porco a kiss on the cheek before she lays back down, and Porco just goes very red at that point in time. And then we cut to the next morning where we have it that the Mama Ayudo gang are hosting the big party, hosting the dogfight, and they must have a very good PR team because, like, just so many people. It's like, this is the next morning and all of these different people are showing up at this big event and everything like that on this, like, little tiny island, and they're, like, taking bets and everything like that for, like, the betting pool and all this other stuff, and there's, like, concession stands and, lots of tables and yachts and cruise ships showing up there and everything like that. So we just get that whole big funny bit there, which is so funny. And we have this moment where, they have, the stage where the bets are placed, and, like, Theo is one bet, and the money is the other bet, so they're put down there. And, Curtis and Porco head off to go get on their plane so they can get ready to fight. And Boss, who is, like, the boss of the Mama Ayudo gang, who's kind of, like, the main, seaplane pirate that we end up interacting with, they all kind of, like, want to get in for a big picture with Theo and everything like that, and they're all just, like, all getting ready for the picture. And it's just like 1, 2, and, like, Boss just, like, punches a whole bunch of the other ones out of the way, and it's, like, right next to Theo as the picture is taken. So we have that, like, funny bit that happens there, as, like, all the other ones were, like, pushed out of the way and everything like that, for the picture, which is just, like, funny there. And then, Theo watches as, Curtis and Porco head off into the skies, and we see these, great, this great dogfight setup where it's, Porco is, evading Curtis very well, then eventually loops his way so he's behind Curtis, so Curtis is the one in his sights as opposed to the other way around, and how, it is, basically stated that, Porco could shoot Curtis down very easily, but Porco will shoot the plane, but not the pilot. So they're in the big dogfight, and it's beautifully drawn and everything like that, and beautifully animated and everything, and we cut to where, like, Jita is at the hotel, and, like, her private pilot is like, okay, come on, where is she? We need to get going or we're going to miss this. And Jita is actually in her, private office or whatever, listening to this incoming call about, or incoming, Morse code message about, that the Italian military knows about the dogfight. They're on their way to try to capture Porco. And so she's like, those guys are idiots. And she's like running out and everything like that. And like as they're flying, she ends up asking her pilot, why can't we go any faster? And he's like, well, the engines are going to burn out. And she goes, just like, all seaplane pilots are idiots. As they're on their way to the dogfight. And what ends up happening is during the dogfight, Curtis's guns run out of bullets because he fired all of them. And Porco's gun jams. So they end up basically getting into this kind of like moment in the air where like Curtis tries shooting at Porco with like his actual gun, and that doesn't work. So then Porco ends up throwing something at Curtis, and it's not a wrench, but it's like a control thing or whatever that got ripped off, and he like throws it, and it like whacks Curtis in the head, which is just so funny. And so they get into this moment where they're like throwing stuff at each other from the planes, and then eventually they end up landing, and then it goes from being this dogfight to being a battle of fists, and they're like, you know, turning into like a boxing match type of a thing and everything like that. So, you know, with like Theo and, you know, in and Porco's corner, and like Curtis's like little agent manager thing in like his corner and everything like that. And like the bets are still open, so we have that whole thing going on. And, you know, so Porco and Curtis are just like, you know, beating each other up. And eventually there ends up being this moment where, you know, Curtis is like, you know, pick one, Gina or Theo, you can't have both. And and Porco's is like, what do you mean Gina? No, I don't have Gina. Gina doesn't love me. And he's like, yes, she does. She's waiting in that stupid garden for you, and, you know, for you to show up and everything. And, you know, so we have like that whole conversation is being had there between these two idiots while they're punching each other. And, you know, eventually it results in, you know, Gina's plane shows up, or just as it's showing up, they both kind of, you know, punch each other, kind of knocked out a little bit, and they end up like falling beneath the water because they're fighting in the water. So they kind of like falling beneath the water, and it's just like they have one of the other pirates there is like being like the referee type of a thing, which is just kind of funny. And like the Gina's plane like stops like right over where Porco and Marco are knocked out a little bit, and they're both under the water, so it's just like, I hope they're not in danger of drowning. And Gina is like standing on the top of her, on the like the nose of her plane, looking down at Porco, and she's like, Marco, get up. This is ridiculous. Get up. And he's the first one that gets up, so he's the one that's proclaimed the winner. So, you know, so then him and he, you know, Fia doesn't have to marry Curtis, and she gets paid. So she's the winner, and Gina gives out the, you know, the Italian military on their way here. All of you need to get out of here now, if you don't want to be arrested. Blah 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 blah. And so we have that moment, and we have one moment where like boss of the Mama Yudo gang is like, you know, he's trying to be respectable, as he says, or classy or whatever, and he's like, you know, giving the money to Theo to like finish off his job as host of, you know, this big dog fight. And he like gives the money to Theo, and like she, you know, Porco then like picks Theo up, takes her over to Gina's plane, and plops her in Gina's plane, and he's just like, take her to somewhere respectable, just, you know, get her out of here, and, you know, take her somewhere safe. And, you know, Theo's like, but I want to go with you. And, you know, at one point during this, you know, Curtis eventually wakes up, and he's like trying to get back into the fight, but, you know, that's not going to happen because, you know, Porco already won and everything. And we get this moment where, you know, Gina's plane is getting ready to fly away, and Theo actually, like, you know, gives Porco a kiss, and then he gets like hit by the plane and lands in the water again. Hit by the wing of the plane, lands in the water. And then when he comes back out of the water, we do not see his face again. And, you know, Gina's plane flies off, and all the other planes and boats and everything like that are, like, leaving the island and everything like that, so they can all get to safety before the Italian, you know, Air Force shows up. And then Porco and Curtis are, like, the two that are left, and Porco's like, you know, I'm going to try to draw the Air Force away so the others can have time to escape. Do you want to help me? And Curtis agrees to help, and he looks over, and he's like, wait a second, what happened to your face? And it's implied, even though we don't see it, it's implied that Porco's face has now gone back to what it normally should be. What it should be without, like, the curse on it. And it's supposed to be that, like, he fought for Fio's honor and everything like that. And that's one of the reasons why this finally got fixed. Why his face finally got fixed. So that's what it's implied to be. And, you know, and what ends up happening is, you know, so Curtis and Marco fly off, and they end up, you know, flying loops around the Air Force to allow everybody time to leave. And then we get this little ending monologue by Fio that is just like, the Italian Air Force arrived to find nothing. I returned to Milan, but never saw Porco again. Instead, I became good friends with Gina. There have been wars and chaos since then, but our friendship has continued. After I took over the Piccolo Company, I made it a rule to spend summer vacation at the Hotel Adriano. Gina has become more beautiful over the years. The old gang still visits regularly. Oh, and Mr. Curtis, he writes to me sometimes, though he is not the President of the United States yet. He says he longs for that summer in the Adriatic. And so we get, like, this little montage bit where we see, you know, a little bit into the future with, you know, Fio has designed these new radical plane designs and everything like that. She's in charge of the Piccolo Company, and, you know, has, you know, taken it to new heights, and how we, you know, see the Hotel Adriano with, you know, all of the old seaplane pirates there, you know, looking much older and everything like that. And, you know, still being very, you know, very polite to each other on Gina's property and everything like that. And then we, you know, we don't actually see Gina, and we don't actually see Porco, but, you know, Fio kind of has the line of, you know, and between Gina and me, you know, for how her bet turned out, that's between Gina and Porco type of a thing. And it's supposed to be implied that Porco showed up at Gina's party, or at Gina's place, like in the middle of the day, and made his way to her garden, and that they are actually in love and actually a couple at that point in time, because, like, one of the ending shots of the movie is Porco's plane seen parked at Gina's hotel as the credits start rolling. So that's kind of what's implied there. It's like, it doesn't give you 100% of, like, yes, Gina and Porco are together, but it's supposed to be that the curse has been released and that he has made his way to where Gina is, and that they are now actually together and happy in a couple. So that's what there is there. And then that's where the movie ends. I love the design of this movie. It's so beautifully drawn. You know, one of the things is that, you know, Miyazaki loves airplanes and he loves flying and everything like that. And I mean, like, Kiki had a lot of good flying sequences in it. This one has amazing flying sequences in it. Much later on, we're going to get The Wind Rises, which has, again, beautiful flying sequences in it. Miyazaki loves airplanes and stuff like that, so we have that. In regards to the cast for the movie, so in the cast for the movie, there is, of course, the original Japanese dub that was done in 1992, and then there is another one that was done, I don't really know when exactly, and then there is the Walt Disney Pictures version that is the one that I am familiar with, that was done in the 2000s, and it has Michael Keaton as Porco Rosso, hence the Batman shirt. It has Cary Elwes as Curtis, which is just extra funny because Curtis is from Texas and Cary Elwes is from the UK, but he pulls it off great. Fio Piccolo is voiced by Kimberly Williams Paisley, who is the wife of Brad Paisley, who is a country artist. So that's funny there. But also she is the daughter in Father of the Bride and Father of the Bride Part 2 and that type of a thing. She's an actress in those regards. Gina is voiced by Susan Egan, who is also the voice of Meg in the Hercules franchise. And I believe she also voices the mom in Spirited Away, if I remember correctly. Piccolo is voiced by David Ogden Stiers. May he rest in peace. He has a very good setup in this. He also plays the Boiler Man in Spirited Away. I don't remember if he's in any other Miyazaki movies, but he's at least in that one. He might be in another one off the top of my head, but I'm just not remembering it. But he's Cogsworth in Beauty and the Beast. He is Radcliffe in the Pocahontas movies. He is the Archdeacon in the first Hunchback of Notre Dame movie. So there's that. There's not really too many others. Brad Garrett plays Boss, who is the captain of, or the leader of the Mumbai Yudo gang, and Brad Garrett is, he's the brother on Everybody Loves Raymond, is what everybody knows him from. So there's all that. Those are the main cast. They have a couple of other just, various other ones that pop up as the different seaplane captains for the pirates, which is just kind of fun. And things like that. So fun stuff there. I love this movie. It's just so beautifully drawn, but again, every Miyazaki movie is beautifully drawn and animated and everything like that, and the sequences are gorgeous and everything. I keep getting this wrong for what the next video is supposed to be for this series, and I apologize for that, but I do believe the next one is supposed to be Pom Poko, about the raccoons. I do believe that is correct. So I'll get to that. Holidays are coming up soon, so we'll see what's going on with Christmas and New Year's and everything like that, and how that ends up affecting how some of these when some of these videos come out. So that's what I have. I thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a nice rest of your day. Bye.